peeps, Merry Christmas. It is Cameron again, and welcome back to Library Macabre, where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. And today I have a Christmas book recommendation video for you. A Christmas horror recommendation, that is. So sitting next to me here in front of Tony, I have a stack of Christmas horror books that I would like to recommend to you. The first one I have is Secret Santa. This is by Andrew Schaefer. This came out this year, 2020, from Quirk Books. And I actually just read this. This was one of my most recent reads. Alright, so the setup of Secret Santa is there is this editor named Lucy Meyer who is 28 years old. She is known for editing horror books, and this of course takes place in the 80s, so it is right during that big horror boom of the 1980s. And unfortunately, she's just been laid off from her publishing house and she is trying to find work elsewhere. So she finally gets an interview at this old school, old-fashioned publishing house called Blackwood Patterson. And this publisher is known for its prestigious Pulitzer-style books about depressed old men that nobody reads. They have literally not had a bestseller in ever, and it's a bit different from what Lucy is used to. She's used to editing horror books that are immediate bestsellers. So when she is hired into a senior editor position, her goal is to find the next Stephen King, someone who's going to launch this publisher into the spotlight. But unfortunately, there are some very strange things happening at the publishing house, some of which may seem like hazing pranks pulled by the other employees. But when these pranks begin to lead to injuries, Lucy becomes very concerned, especially when she receives a mysterious Secret Santa gift during the gift exchange. I don't want to spoil what the gift is or where the book goes from there, but man, I had a blast with this book, and I think people who are into vintage horror like I am are going to really get a kick out of this. Next is Hark! The Herald Angels Scream, edited by Christopher Golden. This was published by Blumhouse Books and Anchor Books in 2018. Honestly, I would say that this is the pinnacle Christmas horror book. If you want all of these spooky, chilly Christmas feels, this is the book to go for. This delivers all of the goods. Included are 18 short horror stories by many talented authors. A couple of examples here. We have Josh Mallerman, Jeff Strand, Christopher Golden, Kelly Armstrong, James A. Moore, Sarah Penborough, a lot of really great authors. And I would say pretty much all of the stories in here are gold. There were 2 or 3 stories that I was just like, on, but for the most part, they are all fantastic. And it's the kind of book that I can pick up every Christmas Eve, just pick a couple of stories at random and give them a quick read. It's a lot of fun, and I highly, highly recommend it. So there is Hark! The Herald Angels Scream. Next up is kind of a trilogy of sorts. So one of my favorite series of all time is the Fear Street series by R.L. Stine. And my favorite book in particular of that series is Silent Night. So we have Silent Night, Silent Night 2, and Silent Night 3. Now, those who are not familiar with Fear Street is a young adult horror series that started in the late 80s by R.L. Stine, who's also known for the Goosebumps books. While the Goosebumps series was targeted at a much younger audience, the Fear Street series was actually targeted at teenagers, so they had a lot more blood and gore and violence and murder. And my favorite book of the series was always Silent Night. This is a book about a rich, snotty, bratty girl named Riva who works at her dad's department store. And Riva is the supreme bitch. She is awful and mean to everybody. And if you have a boyfriend, she is going to steal him. Basically, everybody hates Riva, and I think deep down, even Riva hates Riva, and that's why she is the way she is. So right off the bat, you know that there are quite a few people who would love to see Riva get it. And I'll just say that the book goes from there. If you want a fun, pulpy, 90s style time, Silent Night by R.L. Stine is the book for you. Next, I'm going to be talking about Carol for a Haunted Man by Bruell and Sullivan. This is published by Cemetery Gates Media. And this is a very, very short little book. It chimes in at just under 80 pages. And this is very much an homage to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It's very much a ghost story. I would not really call this a horror story so much. It's not scary. It's just in that same Christmas Victorian ghost story style of A Christmas Carol. So if you like that, you're probably going to like this. I really enjoyed it. I will say that the ending didn't totally do it for me. It kind of broke the atmosphere and went for something a little too modern. But overall, I did like the book, and it's one that I will reread in future Christmases. So there you go. There's Carol for a Haunted Man by Ruel and Sullivan. Here we have another very, very short book. It is actually a chapbook, so it's only around 35 pages. We have Unmemory by Christy DeMeester. Now this is a creepy book. This is the story of a young woman who remembers back to this mysterious videotape she saw as a kid. It was a Christmas horror film, and she is trying desperately to find this old movie. She can't remember what it was called or even really what it was about. She just remembers being horrified by it as a kid. So she puts out this message online trying to find this videotape, and she finally does. And the book takes a very, very eerie twist from there. Again, this is a short book, but it packs an eerie punch, and I very much enjoyed it. And it's the kind of book that I can pick up every Christmas and read very quickly. So there is Unmemory by Christy DeMeester. So the last one is Krampus the Lord by Brom. Now I read this quite a few years ago. I'd say it's been about 5 years, maybe longer. So I don't really remember everything about this book. I just remember really enjoying it, and I also remember very much enjoying the illustrations and the design of this book, because Brom is a horror dark fantasy author who is also an artist, and he is fantastic at what he does. So I'm going to read you the synopsis of this book just because it's been a while since I've read this and my memory is a little foggy. On Christmas Eve, in a small hollow in Boone County, West Virginia, struggling songwriter Jesse Walker witnesses a strange spectacle. 7 devilish figures chasing a man in a red suit toward a sleigh and 8 reindeer. When the reindeer leap skyward, taking the sleigh, devilmen, and Santa into the clouds, screams follow. Moments later, a large sack plummets back to earth. A magical sack that thrusts the down on his luck singer into the clutches of the terrifying Yule Lord, Krampus. Now, as you can see, this is a beautiful book. The illustrations are just phenomenal, and the book itself is very, very fun. It's actually not a serious book. This book doesn't take itself seriously. It's not really scary. It's actually quite funny. While Krampus does look terrifying on the book itself, he is actually just kind of sad and depressed, and he's like a disgruntled old man. I would definitely call this more of a dark fantasy than a horror book, but it definitely has those horror aspects to it. So if you want a darker horror story with a lot of humor and heart, I would say Krampus the Lord is a good one to go to. And lastly, we have one more book that I actually don't have a physical copy of yet. It is coming in the mail. Unfortunately, it's not going to be here in time for Christmas, so I'll have a review up after Christmas. This one is called Season's Creepings by Ronald Kelly, and I actually just reviewed Ronald Kelly's other book called The Halloween Store, which just came out a couple of months ago. I loved that book. That was a short Halloween story collection. This one is a short Christmas horror story collection. Like The Halloween Store, this is also published by Macabre Inc., and it's done by the same cover artist, so they match really well. Season's Creepings is available right now, so I'm going to leave links down below in the graveyard, as well as links to all of the other books that I talked about in this video. So there you go. Those are some horror Christmas recommendations for you. I really hope all of you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, rate, subscribe if you like what you see, and you can hit the little bell down there to get a notification whenever I post a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Library Macabre. Later, creeps.